Ba, 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 ba. Good evening and welcome to the Rory Talks Football channel. A bit of a sad one today after yesterday's result. We'll be going through it. Obviously, Arsenal 0, Brighton 3. A very, very poor performance, a soft performance. We'll get into it. We'll go through Arteta's press conference. We'll dissect kind of what's happening today. On social media, Arsenal have bottled it, bottled this, bottled that. And of course, we will have guest Laguna as well. I hope you're well. I do hope you're all well. If you're new here, please do subscribe. Bottom right-hand corner, smash a like on the video as well. Do something to raise my spirits because I am living in misery. Melissa, Jake, Ross, Riley, Edward, Dominic, Mustafa, Jermaine, good to see you all. Who thinks about kids in the shower? Just no one. No, just a guy who's got an issue with me. And I'm not saying he thinks about it, but some people have said that he does. Magnus, good to see you. Eno, we are going up the Bulls. Too early signings for the Bulls so far. Definitely is a bottle now. We'll talk about whether or not it's a bottle and what bottled means and why it's such a ridiculously overused word at the moment. Do you think we can challenge for the title again next season? I do. But ultimately, I don't think anyone's going to beat. I don't see how anyone is going to beat Man City to a title at this point. How was the match on Saturday? It was terrible. I pulled my quad in the warm up, so I didn't even play. It was a disaster. Rebecca, good to see you. Need Liverpool to win tonight, as I live in a house of Everton fans. Fair enough. I do think that Liverpool will win. Did you leave the stadium early? No, I didn't. I never leave the stadium before the final whistle. I just don't. Martin Tyler, yeah, he's annoying. To be fair, I didn't even hear. Obviously, I was at the game, so I didn't really hear any of the commentary. But I've seen a lot of people complaining about Martin Tyler. But City are great at the moment. Yeah, City are just unstoppable. And look, I think that's the first thing I wanted to talk about in terms of yesterday's performance. Everything felt off yesterday. It wasn't just the performance of the players on the pitch. If the stream quality is bad, I apologize. It's my internet. It will get better. I said hello to you yesterday. I appreciate it. I didn't think anyone said hello to me yesterday, to be fair. So I apologize if I missed you. I was kind of in my own world. I was running on about 2 hours sleep yesterday, so I was struggling. But look, I think the one thing was that the whole atmosphere at the stadium felt demoralized after that City win. And I don't just think it was City winning. I genuinely, I don't just think it was City winning. I think it was the way in which City, outside turnstile. Oh, I do remember. You said you kind of just called my name. Yeah, I do remember. But look, no, I think it was the way that City won that game, right? They rested 4 key players and kind of still just cruised to a win. And I felt, I've for weeks, not weeks, for a while been saying that we weren't going to catch City and that they weren't going to drop enough points. But I think yesterday was just one more nail in the coffin before we even played. And I think the fans felt it. The atmosphere just was a bit damp, was a bit flat, and so was the performance. It takes perfection to beat City. Yeah, it does. It does. And so that was the first thing. That was the first noticeable thing. Zinchenko was massively missed. Again, I've defended Zinchenko a lot, even when he's put in bad defensive displays, because of how important he is to our system. There is a reason. Arteta has always known how good Tierney was defensively. There's a reason that he still went out last summer and wanted to buy a left back. And yesterday was just more proof of it. We had no ball retention in the midfield. We were fine in defence. We were fine knocking the ball around in defence, but we just had nothing in the midfield, and it's a big problem. And it is something we need to address because Zinchenko, it seemingly is injury prone. He doesn't pick up massive injuries, but he misses quite a few games with small injuries. And if we don't find a way of replacing Zinchenko, then I do think we have a problem. So that is definitely an area we have to do something in the summer. I don't know what it is. I still think Kivior could potentially play that role, but we'll see. Other than that, we look tired still. A lot of players look tired. I don't know why. Uh, but I don't really want to take away from how good Brighton were. Brighton were missing key players. They were missing Solly March, they were missing Lamptey, they were missing Webster, and they played Caicedo out of position at right back. And they were still very, very good. They were massively up for it, which De Zerbi did warn us about, to be fair, that after that Everton defeat that they were going to put things right against Arsenal, and they did. Poor performances from certain players. Truthfully, Ramsdale's had a bit of a howler. I thought the second goal, I don't know why he just hesitated, basically. He second-guessed himself. He didn't know whether to retreat or attack. And in the end, he stayed in no man's land. And you can't do that as a keeper. And for the third one, he's got to parry it. He's got to parry it away from danger or round for a corner. You can't just put it on a plate. So he had a poor game. I thought Ben White really struggled against Matoma. And look, Matoma is an excellent, excellent player. But Ben White did struggle against him. I actually thought the one thing I've seen a lot today is people criticising Bukayo Saka. I thought Bukayo Saka was one of our better players yesterday. And he has been off it recently, but actually, I didn't think he was that bad. He won the ball back a lot. His work rate was good. We were just missing a spark in the attack, and I think part of that was caused by Martinelli going off. That obviously didn't help. Anyone doubting Caicedo as the must-needed player for us to sign over Rice just needs to watch that game yesterday. I think we need them both. But I do think if another team around us gets Caicedo and they strengthen with a player of that quality, that's a big problem. If we don't get Caicedo, but he stays at Brighton, that's not as much of a problem as if he goes to someone else around us. Jesus looked lost. Yeah, Jesus did struggle. But this is where everything in our current system ties into each other, I feel, because without Zinchenko coming into the midfield, I didn't feel like Granit Xhaka was getting forward anywhere near as much as he normally does. Without Granit Xhaka getting forward anywhere like he normally does, Jesus just felt a bit disconnected from everyone. Like their link-up play is normally good, so it's all connected. And this is where, and I tweeted this morning, right? For us to genuinely have a proper chance of winning the title, we need more than 13 or 14 players that are good enough and fit our system. That's clear. And so we do need another transfer window to put that right. Is there any truth to the Castagna links? There is some truth. I mean, there are lots of links around at the moment. Monsieur Arteta, sorry for this delay. I'm getting rid of this Monsieur Arteta. He's an absolute cretin. How do I actually hide user on channel? There you go. Absolute cretin. Apologies for that. But look, I will get into the press conference. And look, this was interesting, right? Because the whole press conference, really, for the first time we've seen Arteta, even last year, he never came out and really kind of criticized the players in the way that he has done yesterday. And they did deserve criticism for it. But his assessment of the game, he said it was a really different feeling to the one we had after last Sunday when we felt proud and that we did what it takes to win in certain moments. Today is completely the opposite. Today we have to apologize to our people, especially for the performance that we had in the second half. He said on accepting whether the title race is over, he said, what I have to accept first is that what happened in that second half, digest it individually. I look at what we have to do very differently for the next match. And after that, until mathematically it's over, the second position is secured. That's not going to change. But we have to digest that, and it's going to take a few days. So that bit's key, I think. Individually, I look at what we have to do very differently for the next match. Clearly, he wasn't happy with that second half. And the second half was like very poor. Very poor. Could we put in a bid for Levi Colwill? Chelsea have FFP issues. No, I think Colwill's someone that they've got as they see him as an important player going forward. So I don't think we could get him. Riley is back. Good to see you. It's been a good season still. Disappointed after the position we were in, but it has been the best season in a long time. Exactly. And we'll get into that with the whole bottling nonsense. He was asked on whether he thought there was a foul on Kivior in the build-up to the first goal. He said, I don't know. We're not going to change that. The first half was a very competitive first half. We expected that. A lot of interruptions. There were 30 fouls in the game. They had no flow. We have some big moments, especially when we were getting the ball really high up the pitch. There are situations we should have done much better. And when we propose again like that, you have to capitalize very quickly in those moments, and we didn't. And in the second half, the moment we lost certain runners, we started to lose a lot of our duels in the last line, conceding 2 very, very poor goals. We had no answers to that. That's the reality of after the second ball. We had no answers to that, and I'm responsible for that. Colwell or Saliba? Saliba. We seem tired and deprived of life. We do. Yesterday seemed really flat. Someone screaming Arteta out, clearly a moron. On whether the result for Man City against Everton had an impact on our performance, he said, I don't know, but this cannot be the way to justify what happened in the second half. In the first half, it didn't happen. It was very interrupted and a lack of flow, and it was a lot of duels because it was a man-to-man game. But in the second half, we lost certain things. We lost focus, we lost pairs, and it became a dangerous game to play. And I do think he's commented on that in 2 of the first 4 questions about the interrupted lack of flow. And that was something. There were a lot of fouls in the first half. And look, credit to Brighton for that, because it was a game plan that worked. And you can't knock something that clearly worked well. Yes, they should have been picking up bookings here and there, I thought. Stream crashing for anyone else. Yeah, I think I do apologize. But yeah, he's picked up on the fact that there were a lot of interruptions. There were a lot of fouls. And I don't know how you avoid that, truthfully. Like, if referees aren't giving bookings after 4, 5, 6 fouls, what can you do? Like, there's nothing you can do. I thought Caicedo should have been booked. I mean, look, I've been having it thrown at me today that Martinelli should have been sent off. I don't think that's a sending off offence, in my opinion. His eyes are on the ball. He jumps up for the header. It's only because Matoma doesn't jump that there's a problem. So I don't think that was a red card. But he was asked if the team has run out of steam. He said, no, I think we had the highest running stats in the league. I don't think that's the case. Today, I think individually we were below par. I disagree with him there. I do think the team has run out of steam. I do think he's run out of steam. But I also don't blame them for running out of steam. And this is another one of those issues. We haven't rested players. And people say, oh, you've only been playing 1 game a week. Yes, we've only been playing 1 game a week, but it's the same players. Almost every game, it's the same players. And this is another issue where we do need more depth so that players can have a break. I mean, can you imagine City rested Stones, De Bruyne, players like that? We cannot afford to rest. Gabriel has played every single game this season. You know, Saka has pretty much played every single game this season. There are players that, whether you're playing 1 game a week or 2 games a week, they do need rest, and we've not been able to give them rest. Although I do still think Arteta could have made some changes that he never has. For example, I genuinely don't understand why we've not seen more of Reece Nelson. Who had the better season now, Arsenal or United? I think it depends on what you define as a better season, honestly. Like, I think Arsenal are... If you purely take it at face value, you say United, both of them have achieved top 4. Neither of them won the league. United have won a trophy, therefore they've had the better season. If you want to take that, fine. I won't disagree with it. I'd say if you were to ask whose position would you rather be in, I think it's Arsenal. In terms of, we've shown we're capable of hitting well over 80 points in the league. We've got the youngest team. You know, I think you have to look at it and say you would rather be in Arsenal's position going into next season than Man United's. But if you want to say that United have had a better season, then fine. I really do think the ref was poor in terms of how long it took to give fouls to Brighton. Arsenal foul a player and the ref waited 6 or 7 seconds. Yeah, I agree. Arsenal in the atmosphere in the Arsenal tavern before City scored was better than the Emirates fans. Definitely drained after the City. Yeah, I agree. The one time I agree with Neville, we need a strong spine to the team to fight for titles. Ramsdale is a baby in goalkeeping ages. Our wingers are 21 and inexperienced, and our striker underperforms XG. Yeah, we are building a spine. This is Neville is right, but he also doesn't seem to acknowledge the fact that we are building. And this is why, and this ties into the whole bottled thing. You've got to get what is a process? There's a reason that at every point that he was asked it this season, Arteta kept reminding people this is only phase 3. This is only stage 3 out of 5. Because he knows that we haven't got a strong spine yet. I think Gabriel is strong. I think Xhaka is. But really, other than that, even Thomas Partey is a good player, but he's not a sort of gritty, loud, vocal player. I think Saliba will develop into a strong spine, and I think Ramsdale will, but they need time, and that's why I don't think it's a bottle. I just wanted some fight. You don't care if we get beat by the better team, but I want some fight. I agree. I do want fight. And it does feel like the players have just run out of a bit of that fight. And part of that, by the way, and this is where I would have criticism of Arteta, with 11 games to go, we were talking about every game being a cup final. Arteta was talking about having 11 cup finals to go. I don't think that's a good mentality to have. I think that is a draining mentality to have. Because when that happens, every single result, whether it's a win, a draw, or a loss, drains you emotionally. It's either a draining win and you celebrate the win as if you've won a trophy, or you lose and it's a really gutting defeat, or you draw and it's gutting because there's so much pressure on every game. And I don't think that is the way to go. I think if you look at City, where they don't see them as cup finals at all, it's just win, another one checked off, next game. Win, another one checked off, next game. There isn't all of that emotion around it. And I do think that's something we've got to learn. Have you seen what Gary O'Driscoll said about Martinelli? Yeah, so the club medic said that Martinelli should be fine, that it was just a sore knock. But I do think Martinelli is having a scan today, so I guess that will reveal more. City have treated this run as a run of cup finals, though. But I don't think they do in terms of the mentality around it. They've treated them as that in the terms of they know that they have to win every game, but I don't think they have the emotional side of every game as a cup final, not in the way that we do. Did you see Lee Gunner was calling out Keown Parler and Ian Wright? He's loving the fact that we bottled it. Mate, Lee Gunner's he's just a cretin. He is a cretin. In terms of people like Lee Gunner, are genuinely delighted that this has happened because they're getting more views now than they have done all season. He's an absolute muppet. There's a reason he's banned from the UK. It is what it is. Arteta put too much pressure on the players. We play our best when we're relaxed and having fun. I agree. And that's kind of what that whole cup final thing I was talking about. Pep's mentality was always to focus on the games and perceive his squad as underdogs, so it takes the pressure off. I agree. Lee Gunner is a clown, made his name on the club being bad. I agree. I'm so sick of this season. I haven't cared since the Southampton game. Well, look, that's up to you, isn't it? Are you annoyed at the Arsenal fans walking out? Look, it does annoy me. It does annoy me. It's not something I do, but each to their own. To be fair, the one thing I would say is that yesterday, compared to I got really annoyed when they left at 3-1 down in the Southampton game. Yesterday, I could slightly understand it more because we weren't coming back from 3-0 down at the point that people started leaving, and it really was the title over. And the actual performance was shocking. So I could understand it a bit more yesterday. It's still not something that I would do, but I do understand it more. Pep looks good for the treble now. Yeah, I hope they don't get the treble. I am praying that Real Madrid beat them. Absolutely praying. Lee Gunner isn't a fan. No, Lee Gunner's not an Arsenal fan. He put himself into a position where he will never go to the Emirates and watch a game again because he was so busy trying to monetize Arsenal doing badly that he got himself banned. Apparently. Rotating is always key in a title race. You guys should have done what we did against Everton, or if you put the game to bed, bring on your academy players / third choice players. I agree, Mad Pro, that rotating is the key. The one thing I would say is that unlike Man City, and this is where the sort of development of the squad and the fact that we're only in phase 3, according to Arteta, the issue is that we can't rotate in the same way that City do, because we just don't have the depth. If you look at it and you look at our especially with the injuries that we've got, we're in a position where we can't rotate our right back. We can't rotate our centre backs. We can't rotate our left back. We saw the difference between Zinchenko and Tierney yesterday. We've rotated out Partey. We can't really rotate out Granit Xhaka because Fabio Vieira isn't good enough. We can't really rotate out Ødegaard. We can probably rotate out Saka, although Arteta chooses not to. We can't really rotate out Martinelli. And we can just about rotate out Jesus. So I think that's the issue, is that we just don't have the depth right now to do it. And what I mean is, you could rotate out those players and still win. There will be games where you could rotate them out. If you were forced into rotating those players out, you could do it and still win a game. But it would be a massive risk going into pretty much any game for us in the Premier League, rotating quite a few of those players out, and the risk would be that we'd lose the game. And that is the difference. Tierney needs to be sold. His value is high and miles worse than Zinni. It's a tricky one with Tierney. It is a tricky one because I just don't see how he fits into the team, but also I don't want to see him go to like a Newcastle where I think he'd do really well. It is a really tricky one, but a lot of signings are needed for the Champions League squad depth. Just isn't there. I do agree. Were you more shocked at the score yesterday or ESR coming on after the 70th minute? Do you know what? I was happy to see Smith Rowe, but I was surprised, and I was surprised by the score. Can't believe Eddie's goal against United, Jorginho's against Villa, and Nelson's against Bournemouth are all for nothing. They are, but they are memories. And that's one of the things that I look at when, I've had Chelsea fans today telling me that, our season's the same, even though obviously qualifying for Champions League is a big thing anyway. But we've both ended the season with no trophies, so we've had the same season. I've had some amazing moments this season, and they will be memories forever. Like that Reece Nelson goal, the limbs after that goal, that's still an amazing memory. Obviously, it hasn't been a memory that's gone on to help us win the league, but it's still a memory nonetheless. It was still an experience. So, yeah. Can't believe that Arteta is looking for a new winger when we have Reece Nelson, who's class, when someone, Diaby costs a fortune. I don't disagree. This season is the start of our new golden age. Yeah, exactly. We're ahead of schedule. At the end of the day, you have to still consider we are ahead of schedule. This is the start, not the end. We've seen it before, right? We've had seasons before where we could have gone all the way and won a title. We didn't go all the way and win the title, and it felt like the end of the era. Like 07-08, for example. And then you'd lose your Fabregases and your Nasris and all the rest of it. We've had seasons like that before. This summer, we're not losing any of our best players. We're bringing in more talent. We've got money to spend, and we've got a bunch of young players that are all going to get better. We are heading into, hopefully, the best era we've had since the Invincibles. But time will tell. I will never forget Saliba forgetting how to celebrate after that Nelson goal against Bournemouth. Yeah, exactly. Will Caicedo come to Arsenal? I hope so, but he's going to cost a lot of money, that's for sure. Do you think Roberto De Zerbi is up there with Ten Hag, Pep, and Arteta? Yeah, I do. I think with all of the managers that are in that bracket, I think you still have to go to a big club and prove that you can do it at a big club. So, for example, even though I think he was kind of stiffed by the ownership, Graham Potter, was very successful at Brighton, moved to Chelsea, and showed that he couldn't handle the big characters and the big names. So I do think that's something that De Zerbi would have to prove to start being talked about up there with the top managers. But he is very good. He's doing an exceptional job. The way that Brighton played better than anyone bar Man City at the Emirates this season, like quite comfortably. Even the other teams, even teams that have come and got points, haven't played like that. And then teams like United, Liverpool, Newcastle, Spurs, Chelsea, any big club, none of them played anywhere near as comfortably as Brighton did yesterday. And part of that was on us and us making it too easy for them. But they deserve a lot of credit for that. Where do you think Arsenal will finish next season? It wouldn't surprise me at all if we finish second next season. I think you've got to wait for the summer window to be done to make a more accurate prediction. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if we come second next season. I just struggle to see anyone winning the Premier League when City have still got Pep. When they've still got Pep, they keep rotating through top level players, I just think no one's going to compete. Like until Pep leaves Man City, we are a farmers league, truthfully. And if you think about it, the only reason we've had a title race this season is because Arsenal massively outperformed everyone's expectations. The only reason for the last like 4 or 5 years we had title races was because Liverpool massively outperformed basically any Liverpool side in history. We've been relying on one team. Like, it's remarkable that Liverpool were able to compete and push City for the title in the seasons that they did. Realistically, without like one-off teams having insane seasons compared to what they normally do, City for 6 years straight would have just absolutely walked the league. And that is a concern. That is a concern. Like Arsenal, this is still going to be Arsenal's like third or fourth best Premier League season ever. It's a problem. It's a problem for the league. You're still talking about Arsenal? Yeah, it's almost as if this is an Arsenal fan channel and the title of the stream is called Daily Arsenal News, isn't it? He was asked back to the press conference. Arteta was asked about his emotions following the defeat. He said, "At the moment, it's just frustration. The feeling that we gave the game away in the second half, and we fought really hard to be in the position that we are. And today was a critical moment to keep hoping and keep digging for that dream. And when you have to play in these moments, you cannot do what we did in the second half. And then we need, and then we have to look if the team is capable of doing that when it comes to the biggest stage." So this is where he really kind of got into it quite heavily. It's a lot of things we have to analyze and think about because it cannot happen. So that bit is crucial there. We have to look if the team is capable of doing that, as in crumbling effectively when it comes to the biggest stage. And that's where I think, on top of bringing in talent, we do need to bring in a couple of characters. And that could be an area where, when you're looking at Declan Rice versus Caicedo, Declan Rice's character is big. He is a big character. He's a good character to have in the dressing room. I'm not saying that Caicedo isn't that. I don't know, truthfully, if Caicedo is that, but I know that Declan Rice is. Your monotone voice is so jarring. Well, what you could do, Ben, because TikTok does have this nifty feature, you can swipe and then you won't be listening to me. Just engage your brain. Did we do Guess the Gooner? We've not done Guess the Gooner yet. We have not done Guess the Gooner. How far can Arsenal get in the Champions League? I think we have to aim for at least the quarterfinals. I think we have to aim for the quarterfinals. Obviously, a massive amount of it always depends on the group that you get and then the draw that you get after the groups if you make it through. But I think we should aim for at least the quarterfinals. He was asked about Gabriel Martinelli's injury. He said, "We don't know. He's in a boot at the moment. It was very uncomfortable for him to walk. He couldn't carry on playing, so obviously we need to scan him and see the extent of the injury." And like I said, Gary O'Driscoll, who's the club medic, you'll have recognised him from the All or Nothing documentary. A fan stopped him outside the ground after the game and asked him about Martinelli, and he said he thinks that Martinelli should be a very sore one, but obviously he'll have that scan. So hopefully Martinelli is fine. I mean, look, ultimately, we've got nothing left to play for now. If Martinelli's not fine for the rest of the season, then, I mean, it's 2 games, so he'll recover over the summer, but hopefully it's nothing serious. Anyway, he was asked if this season's given him more conviction and hope for the future. He said, "In a sense, yes, but with the level that's required to fight for the Premier League, the way we want to fight and be in the Champions League, and fight in the way that we have to fight to win the Champions League, it's a lot to think about." So he's putting across the message here that yesterday was a bit of an eyebrow raiser for him, that long term, if we're serious about winning things, are there players in that squad that aren't capable? Are there players in that squad that when things are going well, they're good enough, but when you have to dig in, they're not good enough? I think that's what he's alluding to. And it's interesting. He was asked if accepting that our young team have been pushed to the limit. He said, "I don't know." He said, "I'm responsible for what happened today. My job is to get the best out of every single individual. And if we have to take it into the last 4 or 5 months, I will have to. I've tried to do that with the best ability, but today, obviously, I didn't do it." And I do put a bit of the blame on him. I think, like I said, going into the game, the fans felt deflated. We were deflated because of watching the City win and watching City win in the way that they did. It is Mikel Arteta's job to make sure that the players don't have that mindset. Like, part of your job as a manager is to be a motivator. It is to get them up for the game. And I'd argue that whatever he said at halftime didn't work because the second half was poor. So that is partly on him. Yeah, please do like the stream if you're watching on YouTube. It does massively help me. He was asked if his thinking has changed when looking forward to next season. He said, "My thinking is exactly the same. Obviously, what the team has done over the last 10 months is very different to what anybody expected. That generates a lot of expectations as well. It generates enthusiasm, happiness, and joy. And that's something that has to be managed in the right way. After that, we have the responsibility to make sure the team performs, and I have the maximum responsibility to do that. So I hate the feeling of letting people down. And when they're really expecting something and doing that, that's the biggest regret I have today. We have to apologize for that." And then he was asked on what conceding 25 goals at home can be put down to. And that is a problem. We've conceded a lot of goals at home. He said many different factors. When you look at the goals we've conceded today, it's too simple. But actually, when you look at the home goals that we've conceded all season, how many of them have been way too easy? Might have to go to the cameraman to do more team talks, yeah. But I think back to so many goals we've conceded at home this season that have been easy. Remember the one Mitrovic when we played against Fulham, gifted Mitrovic that goal. That could have been a game that went a different way. We ended up getting a last-minute equaliser winner in that game through Gabriel. That was an easy goal. I mean, the goals against Bournemouth were shocking. Southampton were shocking. We have conceded far too many easy goals. Even goals like when we were winning comfortably, like the one against Leeds, the one against Palace. How do you think the mentality should be next season? Is it target top 4 or title challenge? I think we go into next season, we have to we have to, first of all, right, you have to lock off top 4. Fine. That the first objective next season will be lock off top 4. But really, we have to be going for the title. Like, we are now entering an era, and you never know how long that era is going to last. We are entering an era where we have got a very, very good team that are young, and we've got to start winning things. Because all too quickly, those eras can end, and you're back to being struggling for top 4 and all the rest of it. So we have to make the most of the team that we've got at the moment, and the team that we will have over the next 2, 3, 4 years. So for me, next season, as long as we can build out the squad in the summer, next season, I don't want to see us giving up on anything. I don't want to see us going into the Carabao Cup. This year I understood it, and I was part of the group of people saying, focus on the title, focus on top 4, forget about the Europa League, the Carabao Cup, and the FA Cup. Next season, I don't want to see that. Next season, I want to see us trying to win everything. And I think that's important. I agree title challenge should be the goal, but would title challenge from day one be too much pressure like we have the past 7 games? Well, I don't think you have that mentality, Ross. I think the first half of the season, you normally just go into every game trying to win it. And then it's the second half of the season where you look at where you're at and you go, okay, now this is the target. It's why I think it was really after the was it the United game? Was the fight? We beat United at home, right? And at that point, we just got through a really tough period of Brighton away, Newcastle at home, Spurs away, and Man United at home, and we took 10 points out of 12. And that was massive at that point, and people really started talking about us winning the title. And then we went into that Everton game and lost it, which was really poor. But I think that was the point where every game started feeling nervous. Whereas before that, every game had felt quite fun. And it was almost like, because we didn't believe that we were in a title race, there wasn't that pressure. So I think that happens most seasons. I think the start of next season, it will just be every game, try and win it. But the mentality from the start has to be winning every game. Tonight's score prediction, I think Liverpool will win 3-0 tonight. Thoughts on Arsenal looking at Mendy from Madrid? I'm actually going to save that one for tomorrow because we're already like half an hour into the stream today. But there is transfer news that Arsenal have got the green light to sign Ferland Mendy. I'm not sold on it, but we will talk about that more tomorrow. That is the end of Mikel Arteta's press conference. So I did want to talk about bottling it. Have we bottled it? What is bottling? Obviously, look, the main reason that a lot of fans are saying it on social media is because they know that it annoys Arsenal fans. Like, that's the reason they're saying it, and that's the reason they're spamming it in the chat and all the rest of it. Have we bottled the title? No, I don't think we have, because to bottle something, you have to be the favourites, and we were never the favourites. Even when we were like 8 points clear, we just about became the favourites according to the bookies. I'm talking like we were 10 to 11 on, and Man City were evens. That was pretty much the most we ever became favourites to win. And when we were the favourites to win, Saliba wasn't out for the rest of the season. Tomiyasu wasn't out for the rest of the season. So once you then throw in injuries to key players, I just don't think that we've bottled it. And you could say the manner in which we've only taken 9 points out of the last 21. That is very poor, don't get me wrong. But ultimately, I just don't think this squad had the ability to do it. Like, you look at the way that City have won however many games they've won in a row, and will probably win the final 3 as well. There's a very good chance we'd have needed to get 95 points to win the league. This squad on paper is never, ever good enough to win the league. Not because the best starting 11 we've got aren't capable of getting 95 points, but because we don't have enough people on the bench that are capable of getting 95 points. That is just the cold, hard truth of it. And so for me, we haven't bottled it. Yes, the performances have been poor. Yesterday was by far the worst performance, and that was annoying to see. But I just don't understand how it can be considered bottling. And ultimately, if you put our season in any other chronological order, if we had gone, if we had been 5th at the turn of the year, and then had ended up in 2nd on the amount of points that we're on, everyone would be going, praising Arsenal and saying what an amazing season it was. Whereas now people are, oh, it's a 7 out of 10 season and they bottled the league. And I just disagree. You can have your own opinions on that if you want to. You're wrong, but it is what it is. If anyone thought City was an underdog, they're crazy. That is one of the top Prem teams of all time. I mean, it is. It is. This is by far the best, not even Premier League. This is by far the best period that any English team has had in top flight history. They've smashed out 4 of the 6 biggest points totals in Premier League history. They are a ridiculous force to try and stop, and ultimately, I just don't think that we had a big enough squad to do it. If we get Caicedo and Rice in the summer, how many players would we have to sell in our midfield and who? So if we get Caicedo and Rice, I mean, effectively that would then leave. So we would have Caicedo, Rice, Jorginho, Partey, Xhaka, Sambi Lokonga, Fabio Vieira, if you count him as a midfielder, Mohamed El-Neni. So we'd have 8. Really, you only need 6. Obviously, El-Neni will probably go. Jorginho may well go. That wouldn't surprise me. Sambi Lokonga could go on another loan. I don't think players like Sambi Lokonga is not good enough to be in a Champions League squad. In fact, actually, if that was the midfield, Jorginho probably is. Only Partey, Rice, Jorginho, Caicedo, and Xhaka would be good enough for a Champions League squad. El-Neni, Vieira, Sambi Lokonga, not good enough. Yeah, I agree. And arguably, even Granit Xhaka would be borderline good enough at that point. Because I do still think, as good as Xhaka's been this season, he is very clearly a player that we are ready to upgrade. But look, we are going to do Guess the Gooner, the game where I give you an ex or current Arsenal player's career path without the Arsenal part of it. You have to guess who that player is. If you get it right, you get an incredible amount of pride and status within the YouTube chat for your impeccable Arsenal ball knowledge. So let's get into it. This is an ex or current Arsenal player without the Arsenal part of their career. So they started at Grenoble. They went to FC Istres on loan. They went to Tours FC, Montpellier, Chelsea, and AC Milan. Grenoble, FC Istres, Tours FC, Montpellier, Chelsea, and AC Milan. Lots of people have got it in the TikTok chat. It is flooding through there. And it is Jermaine who's got it right first in the YouTube chat. It is Olivier Giroud. Jermaine is first. Jake Matterford second. Ross Lawman third. I think Harry was trying to do it but got done by autocorrect again. And Dominic Riego was fifth. So there you go. It was Olivier Giroud. Quite an easy one once you got to the Chelsea AC Milan part of it. But it was Olivier Giroud. What a man. What a man. I don't know how there are Arsenal fans that don't like Giroud still. What a man. And now, so Jermaine has the top level of pride. Now for the guess the non-gooner. So I give you a player that hasn't and doesn't and has never played for Arsenal. Give you their full career path, and you have to guess who it is. Obviously, you don't get quite the same level of pride that Jermaine got. But this player started at Vitória Guimarães. They went to Sporting Lisbon, Rennes, Leeds, and Barcelona. That end bit should give it away. Vitória Guimarães, Sporting Lisbon, Rennes, Leeds, Barcelona. There you go. They've got it in TikTok and they've got it on YouTube. And it is Jake Matterford who takes the win. Ross Lawman second. TikTok Lacazette third. 8-2-1-1 Leo fourth. And also Leo fifth. There you go. It's Rafinha. It is Rafinha. Linked again to Arsenal today. Is it a player you'd want at Arsenal? Is Rafinha a massive upgrade on someone like Reece Nelson? I don't know. Second again, guessing it was an omen lol. Unlucky, Ross. You were close. You were close. Jake Matterford nearly said Marcus Edwards from Vitória to Sporting. But he got it right. He got it right with Rafinha. I'm getting yeses and nos in the chat. Would you take Rafinha? Rafinha is staying at Barca. Xavi said that. That's not always how the transfer market works, though. Fun dear Liam. It's not all. That's not your name at all. I've just butchered it, but that's not how it always works. George, good to see you. You've just missed Guess the Gooner, George, unfortunately, but I'm all right. Thank you. I'm all right. All things considered, I'll be honest. I say I'm all right. It was an absolutely stinking weekend. Obviously, I went to the Content Creator Cup on Saturday. Went through the warm up, no problem at all. Then we did a little drill, little pass and shoot drill. Took my first shot and my quad absolutely went. Really quite badly pulled my quad. Didn't play any of the game. And then went on a good night out, to be fair, in Nottingham. Met a lot of nice YouTubers. Had a good night out. Had about 2 hours sleep. Made the travel back for the Arsenal game. And that was the Arsenal game, which was mightily depressing. So there you go. Is it okay now? Well, no. I mean, no. Truthfully, I'm probably going to be. I won't be able to play football for about 8 weeks, probably. So, yeah, absolutely. Well, which Danny? Presumably Danny Aarons. But Danny Campion was also there, who was also a legend. But honestly, I can't stress enough how no matter how a lot of these people are on camera and stuff, they're all just such nice, genuine lads. It really was nice to meet them. Are you from Hereford? I am indeed originally from Hereford. Don't live there now, but season over for your team. Yeah, for Arsenal or my five-a-side team, because both is the truth. I was meant to be playing at Charlton in a couple of weeks as well. I was meant to be playing at the Valley Ground. That's out the window now. How good was Plute? Plute is a baller. I actually travelled up with Plute. He's one of the nicest people I've ever met, honestly. What a guy. Why'd you support Arsenal? I don't actually remember. I started supporting them at such a young age. I mean, in terms of time-wise, it was definitely just because they were unbelievably good. And then once I started supporting them, I just never stopped. Thing is, in Hereford, you can't especially when I was that young and Hereford weren't even in the Football League, there was no way of even watching Hereford unless you were at the game. But obviously, a lot of the time, even my parents couldn't take me, or I'd be playing football at club level. So it's one of those where if you don't support a Premier League team, you don't really get to enjoy watching football. And then if I was going to support a Premier League team, the closest Premier League teams to Hereford are still well over an hour's travel away. And they're like Villa and teams like that. So truthfully, most people in Hereford support a big Premier League team because it just makes sense to do that. So I obviously chose Arsenal, and true to be honest, right? For people my age that have supported Arsenal all our lives, we don't really remember the good times. Like, I remember the Invincibles, but not in the same way that I would if I was a teenager when I was supporting them. We've then gone through 2 decades of pure misery, and now it's finally looking good again. So that's kind of how it is for people my age. But look, that is going to be the end of the YouTube stream. I massively appreciate you turning up. Obviously, it's a bit of a sad one. It's a bit of a down one. Again, please do like the video and subscribe if you're new. Have a good evening. I'll be back at 5 o'clock tomorrow. I'm filming on Pitchside tomorrow as well, so that'll be out later this week. And yeah, have a good evening. Goodbye.